So very excited to have another episode of the Authentically podcast today. And I am so excited to be joined by the amazing Jamie Rose, aka the Happiness Ninja. So welcome to the podcast, Jamie.
Thanks so
and
much,
for everyone
Gemma.
watching on YouTube, hello.
Hi, everyone.
So Jamie is the international award-winning author of the upcoming book ABCs of Positive Psychology, Beginner's Guide to Letting Go of Limiting Beliefs and Unlocking Your Hidden Full Potential, which I cannot wait to read. And Jamie uprooted her life and moved to New York City from rural Queensland, Australia in January 2020 as a mature age mid-30s student on a one-year study abroad scholarship program. And she's the founder of two brands, Happiness Ninja and Strategic EQ, and grew up reading books about colleges in the USA. Coming from a lower socio-economic background and a broken, unsupported family, it wasn't until much later on in life did she think she could actually achieve this seemingly impossible dream. So Jamie's area of focus is both personal and corporate training and development in the fields of emotional intelligence, mindfulness meditation, character strengths, resilience, stress management, applied positive psychology, and well-being. So many incredible things there. And Jamie attained the hardest and most flexible visa in the US, dubbed the Einstein visa. Who doesn't love Einstein? And in November 2021, as a positive psychology trainer, educator, and ambassador, won the 28th Annual Communicator Distinction Award in the audio podcast series, society and culture category for her show Happiness Ninja Down Under, which is amazing, and I've been on that show. I can vouch for it. And Jamie has been dressing in a ninja costume and conducting self-funded random acts of kindness around the world since 2015 to an unknown sum of well over $200,000 in an effort to achieve her mission of halving suicide and depression rates around the world by 2040. What an incredible mission, Jamie. And in 2015, at age 29, after suffering from major depression and social anxiety for 17 years, since the age of 12, she learned how to retrain the neural pathways in her own brain, change the way her brain functioned, and therefore her overall outlook on life and people in general. Jamie is a qualified, trained mindfulness meditation teacher, strengths profile coach, and pillow energy healer. Such an amazing bio, Jamie. So much in there. I'm out of breath.
That was a mouthful. But pretty much, I'm the Australian version of you.
You are. We figured that out, didn't we? So yeah, I don't even know how I found you. I think it was through doing the positive psychology course. I think it was
the diploma.
And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this amazing, incredible ninja lady who's out on the streets dressed as a ninja? I have to get to know her more. And then we started talking and realized that, Jamie and I were like doing very similar things. Obviously, I was maybe an internal ninja, but wasn't dressed as, didn't do the external ninja bit. But we were effectively like the Australian and UK versions of each other. So so it was your ninja outfit that drew me in. And we haven't looked back since, and I've been on your show. And what an incredible journey that you've been on, Jamie, to this is the Authentically You podcast, and to hear that authenticity coming out about how in particular how you had this dream, you read about colleges in the US, and you've just relentlessly gone for it.
Never given up.
Tell us more about that journey and that route to authenticity for you.
So I just want to say one thing. It was mostly self-funded, random acts of kindness. I have had some people who have sponsored, so I just wanted to make a point of that.
The sponsors mentioned. We appreciate you sponsors. Let's just get them in.
Yeah, there's been a few over the years, so I just want to point that out. Yeah. It has been a long and tireless journey. I mean, geez, it was probably 6 years ago that we found each other, which has just gone so quickly. How the journey started, it was divinely led. I didn't realize at the time, but I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this message that just came into my unconscious, and I sat straight up and I was like, I am going to dress in a ninja costume and call myself the Happiness Ninja and do random acts of kindness. And within like a week, I was doing that.
Amazing.
And I haven't stopped.
And aren't they the best, those messages that come in at 3 a.m? Because you're just like so connected in that state of like sleepiness, aren't you, in that channeled state, and it just comes in, no thoughts can get in that point in time. They just come in, off you go, and that's your purpose.
I was actually working in a prison in North Queensland in Townsville, two prisons actually, a male and a female across the road from each other. And I told the female prisoners what I was going to do, and they actually supported me 100%. Whereas the general public, people were like, she's not going to do that, as if, because I made an announcement about it, because I thought, you know, if I put it out there, I'm not the kind of person, like, if I put it out there, I'm going to go through with it. Yeah. So I thought I have to tell the world so that I don't chicken out. And after I went through that, I had all these private messages like, oh my God, you actually did it. I'm so proud of you. I thought you would chicken out. And so it was really funny.
Oh, that's so amazing. Yeah. Sometimes just putting it out there and publicly committing it, like, it's
accountability.
Yeah, that does really help, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've realized actually, with everything, you know, moving remotely and that, I do need to be held accountable. That was one thing I learned about myself during the last 2 years. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why I put things out there, because I like to be held accountable.
And I imagine that's what has facilitated you, because I know you've traveled a lot as well. Like, would you say that, like, almost like you say, right, I'm going to New York, accountability there, therefore you have to make it happen? Would you say that's been a big part of it for you?
Definitely. I actually have a neighbor back home, and she used to just shake her head, and like people would be like, how is she doing what she's doing? And Mama Lena would just be like, she just puts it out there and she makes it happen. And she doesn't even know anything about the law of attraction or manifesting, and yet she still picks up, like, she just puts it out there and then it happens.
Oh, she sounds like an amazing neighbor, like, well,
yeah,
cheerleader.
She's lovely. I miss her a lot.
Oh. So I'm guessing that you didn't always have this go get them attitude, and so what shifted for you? What was your moment where this all shifted?
Well, back in 2013, I actually left an emotionally abusive relationship, and I fell apart. I actually started drinking like 3 to 6 bottles of wine a night, just to cope, to deal with it. There was a lot of things going on at the same time, and I thought, okay, I can't fall to complete pieces here. You know, I'd already overcome being addicted to marijuana, so I didn't want to like have this huge depressive bout and go back to smoking again. So I was like, all right, I accept the fact that I'm, you know, abusing alcohol now, which I had done in the past anyway, even in that relationship. And so I thought I need something to distract me, to keep me at least, you know, on path a little bit. And so because I had been fired at the same time from my job, which is a whole other story. But so I enrolled back in university, which was something that I couldn't really focus on with this relationship. So I did an elective unit called the Science of Wellbeing. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting topic. I've not heard of this. Oh, sorry, no, psychology of well-being. And so it was my introduction to positive psychology. And it was like all these light bulbs going off in my brain. And I was like, wait, why have I never like been taught any of this stuff? This is like pretty like logical things that I should have been taught as a child, so that I didn't, you know, feel so miserable and have such a hard time, you know, coping with life. And it just went from there. I was a trainer and assessor at the time. It was a new role for me, a new job. And I was studying to be a trainer and assessor at the time, I should say. And so I was nearly finished, and I clicked these two ideas together. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of people who don't have the opportunity that I have to go to university. They don't, you know, for whatever reason, they might live somewhere where they can't access it. They might not have the ability, you know, emotionally or intelligently, whatever. And I thought, being I knew that being a trainer and assessor, I'd be working with a lot of lower socioeconomic groups and troubled people, people that needed to be upskilled and needed confident boosts. And so when I learned this, I just thought, wow, there needs to be something like outside of university, at a lower level that's more accessible to people. And so I went searching, and that's when I discovered the diploma through Sue Langley that we both did. And I went and I did that for a year. And then I thought, how can I make this more affordable for people? Because as you know, that's quite a long course. So it is, several thousands of dollars. And so I pulled everything that I had learned through my experience, through that course, through my other, traditional psychology classes that I'd been doing. And I created an online program, and I just never looked back from there. It's just evolved.
That's incredible. And you actually had me tear up at a point there because there's a moment that you said, which I completely resonated with, which I remember so clearly, that moment in myself of like, where that light bulb switches on and you just go, how did I not know this stuff my whole life?
Right.
It's so life-changing. And I, after day one of the diploma, because the diploma was my first, the UK, one thing I have witnessed is that the UK is very behind in a way. So you had the opportunity in college to have this, to do a like a science of well-being, like the UK back in 2015, then completely unheard of. People looked at me, I did the diploma in 2014, and people looked at me like I was some kind of alien.
No, and I had the same thing.
Yeah.
It was a brand new subject at the time. Yeah, but I agree.
And I had that moment that you had of day one of the course. I was in central London, and I'm a huge introvert, highly sensitive person, and I left day one of that course and I walked through central London buzzing, so alive, so vibrant. I got on the tube and some guy's headphones were hanging out of his bag, and I said, oh, excuse me, your headphones are coming out of your bag. And he was like, thank you so much, I've just walked like miles and nobody said anything. And I just felt my whole body just lifted, and I got to my hotel room and I burst into tears, and I was just like, how have I not known this my whole life? Like, I had a really dramatic meltdown about it. So yeah, I can completely resonate with that. And then that desire to get that out into the world. And something that I've been talking a lot about recently is about being a leader of the new paradigm. And that is where, where I see you at, as well as myself, Jamie, is like, you went out there and you did it, and you followed that message and you did it. And like, that's what the world needs, is leaders of the new paradigm that feel a bit weird, feel a bit different, but go and do that anyway, and go
do it anyway,
express their authentic selves. Like the video of the dancing man, the man starts to dance, and then all it takes is one person to come dance with him, and then the whole crowd dances. So
exactly,
what I'm hearing there is that, like, that leadership within you of this new paradigm of like, we're gonna do things differently now. Like, this is our mission, this is our purpose, this is our passion.
Gemma, I want to see swarms of ninjas around the world. You just don't understand.
Yes. Well, you know what this calls for, don't you?
What's that?
You need your second dancing man. We're gonna have to get me a ninja outfit.
Oh, totally.
And then I can come with you, and then they'll be like, wow, there's two ninjas, so we have to go join in.
I am working on producing a merchandise line, so
amazing.
Eventually that will be a thing.
That's the ultimate goal. So whoever's watching and listening to this, like, come and join us one day. Jamie and I are going to be like stood in Times Square dancing as ninjas. So come join us. Perhaps we could do like
handing out ninja costumes. Get in, join us.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Hey, I just want to touch on something. Your example, it made me think of, it wasn't day one of the course, but maybe day 3 or day 4, I can't really remember. But I had a lightning bulb moment as well. Like, there was so many of them, but one that was really profound. I remember like finishing the day, and it was really rainy, and I didn't have an umbrella or anything. And because like I went into the course not in a good headspace, I I openly had told my teacher, Mel, at the time, you know, I view myself as a functioning alcoholic right now. And she challenged a whole bunch of stuff with that, which was really cool. But so it was raining this day when I went out onto the street, and I went into my typical, oh my God, fuck this. Why does this have to happen to me? It's raining. you know how it goes.
Yeah.
And this man came along, and he had an umbrella, and he's like, miss, where are you going? And I said, oh, just to the train station. He's like, here, jump on in. I'm going past there. I'll keep you dry. Oh. And in that moment, usually I can't accept anything, right? Like back then. And in that, I went through this whole debate in my head, like, oh, do I take this man's help, or do I stay in this like normal horrible mindset of like, oh no, I can't accept help and everything's a horrible mess and woe is me. And in that moment I was like, wait, no, this is what we just learned about today. I have a choice in this moment, and I can choose to challenge my normal belief system that, oh, what does this man, like, what's he looking for? Why does he want to walk me to the station? Like, you know, what's the ulterior motive here? And I went, stop telling yourself some bullshit story and just accept the man's help so you don't have to walk in the freaking rain. And I did. And from that moment, I challenged every preconceived thought that came into my head, whether it was a story I was telling myself or whether it was reality, and I could change the outcome instead of, you know, being a whinging, moaning person.
That's amazing. I love those real life examples, and I love that moment when, like, you almost need to have that moment, don't you, to realize that you've shifted, and it's like, oh, hang on, I would have done that before and now I've done it this way.
Right. Well, as you know, like depression and stress and anxiety, it's a very real thing that impacts the brain massively. But once we learn how the brain operates, we can then choose to override it. And that's where our power comes back in. But we have to make that decision to choose in the moment. It's kind of like, just to simplify it, that it comes down to that choice.
It does.
Yeah.
Amazing. So there's so many things that we could touch on today, and I think we could have like a really long conversation for hours and hours, and it was like that when I came on your show.
Yes.
As well. So
every time we talk.
Yeah. So what would you say were like the three sort of key main aha moments for you around this choice? Like, this choice is a big thing, isn't it? Like, knowing you can make that choice, and
right, knowing
that there's a different way. Like, I think I always felt like, as a child, I always felt there was like something else out there, but I never knew what it was. I always talk about this as like Belle in Beauty and the Beast, when she runs up the field going, there must be more to this life. Like, that was me as a child. So like, I think we sometimes have these we have these like moments, don't we, where we're like very theatrical, and we know that there's more, but then it takes learning something like this to like really switch that on. So what tips would you give around, people listening may have like really resonated with that, like as a child, they may have had their aha moment, or they might not have had their aha moment yet, but what tips would you give based on that journey in yourself and coming to that realization?
Wow, good question. Just to choose three. Okay, so I guess a big one for me was understanding like what's happening in the brain. So like every minute by minute, moment by moment, millisecond by millisecond, our thoughts, our feelings, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're thinking, what we're eating, the air we're breathing, the light we're in, everything, right? As we're both into energy now as well. So everything impacts the energy around us, the energy within us, and what's happening on a like microcellular, neurological, brain process, chemical, hormonal level, right? All this stuff that's happening beyond our conscious awareness. And once I fully understood that by changing my choice, I actually change the signals and the chemicals that my body and my brain is producing, therefore changing the way my brain actually thinks and operates, and views the world, that was like the biggest game changer for me. Because it was like, in that moment, it was a very confronting moment though, because once I grasped that, I then had to own that I've contributed to my own depression. I didn't start it. I didn't cause it. That was, childhood traumas and my parental upbringing and things of that nature. But I had helped exacerbate and lengthen and not recover from that. It wasn't my fault. But now that I knew this information, if I didn't do anything with it, well, then it did begin to be my fault, because I now had the power and the knowledge to know better. So I had to make a different choice. And it was really, really profound, because I remember one of my brother's friends that I grew up with, one day, I don't know what I was doing, just being, my typical depressive self that people, had trouble dealing with. And he turned around and he just shook his head and he was like, wow, you just want to be miserable, don't you? And I remember being like super angry and like going off my nut at him and be like, how dare you tell me I want to be like this? I don't want to be like this. This is just how I am. And I had to reflect back on that moment and go, oh, now I get it. Because these people already understand this, that they were raised knowing shit's going to happen in life. And you have to learn to move past it and override it. They may not know the science behind it, but they were raised to innately know that this is life. And if you don't take that power within yourself and override and push through, it will take over and it will control your life. So I think that was 2, right?
Yeah. That's fine. You can have 4 if you like, but we'll have it.
And okay, and now probably the third biggest one would have been realizing that we don't need to let fear control us. We can actually affect the direction of the energy of fear. So the opposite end of fear is excitement, right? But they're sort of the same emotion, just at the different ends of the scale. One's focusing on the negative, and one is focusing on the excitement and the positives. And you can be fearful and excited at the same time. So that's proof that it's the same emotion. It's just where you choose to channel the energy in which direction. And so again, once I realized that, I had such social anxiety. I couldn't do anything without going, like a networking event. I would go straight to the bar and have at least 2 drinks just to settle my nerves so I could function like a normal human being.
I used to hide in the toilet.
Yeah, totally. I remember going to the toilet and looking at notes that I'd written down on subjects that I could talk to people about, because my brain would just shut down. The anxiety would just completely shut my brain down. And so I'm like, okay, remember that you can ask them about their studies or compliment them on what they're wearing, like stupid, simple things like that. I had to remind myself, because my brain would just go into panic overload. So yeah, like that's a big one. Choosing to the direction of the fear and realizing that we don't, like people like me and you and the gurus of the world who are helping millions of people on stages, and like the Tony Robbins, the Joe Dispenzas, all of that, even they'll tell you the fear and the nerves, they never go away completely. You just learn to channel the energy in a better, more positive, effective manner.
Amazing. I've always found this with energy, and I never quite realized it until I saw that energy continuum on the course.
Yeah.
When I was working with a team, when I was working in corporate, and I'd find actually those who were like really angry and had like lots of like negative anger were much easier to engage, because people would be like, oh my gosh, that person is so troublesome. And I'd be like, no, they're easier to engage because the energy is there. They've got the anger. It's easier to turn the anger into something really positive rather than someone who's really quiet and doesn't say anything. Like,
they're just like, there's nothing.
Yeah. So it really is an energy that you can use. And I love that. I love what you said about the choice. And there's a big piece for me in there around that responsibility. It's like, once you know, you can't not take responsibility for it, because it's like, it's a huge responsibility. And especially with the energy piece as well, like, so scientifically knowing your brain, it's like a responsibility to like be that best version of you, not, even if you're not going to do it for you, like, do it for those around you. But then when you start to learn about energy and quantum, and like, it's like, hang on a minute, I now have a responsibility to do this for the whole fucking planet. Like,
right, it's radical responsibility.
Yeah,
radical acceptance. It is what it is. I think maybe it was so profound, and I got drawn to this because we've never had this discussion. I don't even know if you know this about me, Gemma, but I have Tourette syndrome. And so
I think you're incredible.
Thank you. But so my whole life, I was bullied, by family, friends, teachers, you name it. And so it was something that I learned to suppress. And it was really interesting to me back in 2016, I was reading this book on how this doctor had learned how to channel, she had it, and she learned how to consciously channel her energy of her tics into something less noticeable. And I can't always do it. I have moments when I'm in high stress where I just lose all control. But most of the time, I didn't even realize I had been doing that unconsciously. I'd been channeling it into something less noticeable and less, I guess, less fire element, something a little bit more passive. So a lot of the times, like, people don't realize it. Like, I'll play with my hair because it's like a girly, cute thing to do now, right? But actually, that's me channeling the energy. And a lot of the time, I'm pulling a little bit of hair out of my scalp and twirling it down beneath. So, but people don't really realize that unless you pay like really close attention.
This is some kind of like starry stalker person.
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like, how incredible that you've been, because it's just energy, right? So you've just been able to use that energy and channel it in a way that works for you. Like, how amazing. And how many people out there like suffering with, really suffering with anything, really. I was going to say, like, with depression, with Tourette's, like with anything, like, we don't have to suffer, do we? Like, this is like the massive aha moment.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, this might sound a bit far out there, and some people might even get a little bit triggered and upset by it, but I'm not convinced that I can't completely eradicate my tics. I'm nowhere near there yet. I still just, like, at the moment I'm going through it's really hard for me to control my facial tics right now. I want to do them, and they have been playing up because I've been under like massive stress recently. But I am not convinced, because through Joe Dispenza's work and his books, when I read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, it was like another set of light bulbs going off in my brain. It was like, oh, wow, if he can like unparalyze himself, and there's blind people who can make themselves not blind again, and like all these things, why can I not get rid of my tics?
I'm sure
it's not going to be easy. Yeah. And so I adopted the attitude of like, it's just gone. I'm literally manifesting it. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know that in one split moment, something's going to happen and they're just going to disappear. It could be another 10 years away. It could be tomorrow. But I know.
3 a.m. ninja moment.
Right? I just wake up.
Just wake up and it's gone.
They're gone. Actually, no, that has happened before. Years and years ago, I smoked a joint and they did disappear for like, it was a very bizarre moment. I was laying there, I was listening to the sun come up and I was listening to the birds, and I was like, I felt like my brain, the inner workings of my brain was actually like one of those old school clocks, you know, where they wind. And I was like, wow, like, I think I've got rid of my tics. I think like they've all wound up because all desire had disappeared completely. And I was, I think, 17, 18 at the time. So this was my first sort of experience of this. And I was convinced that they would disappear and I was going to wake up and they'd be gone. I woke up and they weren't gone and I was disappointed, but I've never forgotten that moment.
It shows the possibility of whatever you access through that is completely, you know, it's a psychedelic, isn't it? It's like what you can access through that. You're just accessing a part of your mind that you know is available. You know that there are those limitless possibilities.
They did disappear after the first Joe Dispenza. I activated my pineal gland and I knocked myself out cold. Yeah, it was so cool. And afterwards, like, they disappeared for about a month. But a lot of, as Joe, you know, he tells people, you go back to your normal life and you start feeling the same emotions. So you start re-experiencing, and they all came back again. But yeah, just the fact that that's happened twice now, I know that it can happen again permanently.
Yeah, definitely. It's evidence, isn't it, that anything is possible. So
exactly,
keep us updated. That's exciting.
I will, because once I figure it out, I'll be telling all the world so that other people suffering can, you know, do the same thing. Once one person's proved it, it spirals, like you said.
Yeah. Amazing. And it just shows what else is possible, like what else is possible out there, and like what can we achieve and what can we access. And yeah, it's so exciting.
What can we do that we've been told and conditioned and programmed that we can't? Can we grow back a third tooth? Can we grow back a finger?
Yeah,
who knows?
Because you and I will be doing a podcast in 2 years' time with 12 fingers, right? Yeah.
I grew myself a new finger. I just wanted to see if I could do it.
I've got no tics and I've got an extra finger.
Hey, a lizard can grow back his tail, so why not?
Who knows?
And a chicken can run around still when its head's chopped off. So.
Who knows? I loved our conversations. They're amazing. So we're coming to the end of the podcast episode. So if you had to pick one thing, Jamie, if the listeners could do one thing that would just improve their lives and connect them to their authentic selves, if you had to narrow it down and pick one thing, what would you say?
Dig deeper than beneath the surface, and don't take this lightly. Like, the name positive psychology just doesn't really do things justice. So if people could actually look into positive psychology on a real level, like me and you have, don't just palm it off as this fluffy nonsense of positivity, because it's not. It is there's a whole part of how we need negatives in our life to keep us grounded and balanced and not delusional, and how we need to be able to embrace negatives as just what it is. So it's always been, my passion to share the science of happiness so people really understand what it is as a household name. So if that's my one tip, go and research it, go and do the courses. I don't care if it's not mine, whoever you resonate with in the world, go and find the course that is revolved around positive psychology and immerse yourself in the science of it so that you can understand it and you can empower yourself and do exactly what we've done. And thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. We just need to keep sharing our story so that other people can become aware of this.
Amazing, Jamie. Thank you. And that is I think you've really hit the nail on the head there there's a lot of I call it light washing. There's a lot of light washing happening, especially within the spiritual community of think positive, paste happy smiley faces. And that's totally not what it's about. And that's why sharing that science is so important. And like you say, sharing our stories, and there's probably people out there with stories, so come forward with your stories, share your stories, come talk to me on the podcast, come talk to Jamie on her show, and let's spread the word, let's get it out there, because it's so amazingly powerful and important.
So important. We know that with lower depression rates, equals lower bullying, lower crime, lower poverty. Like it's all a spiraled macro, micro, integrated effect. And toxic positivity, that's what you were just touching on. It seems to be this growing trend, which is not cool at all.
Not cool at all. And you can't develop, like, you can't develop spiritually without having those grounded roots in place. Otherwise, you're just gonna implode.
And another
really thing, understanding what you're dealing with if you're not working with science.
Right. And another thing that bothers me a lot is there seems to be also this growing trend of, okay, don't get me wrong, it's great that we're getting mental health awareness out there and we're changing the narrative, but I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people who are now like, oh, it's cool to be mentally ill. Oh, it's my excuse. I'm mentally ill. I'm sorry, but that just perpetuates the issue more. And that is not the solution.
I couldn't agree more. And I've talked about my experience of going to the doctors, getting prescribed anti-anxiety medication. I was just like, in that moment of like, no, like how many people out there are getting prescribed, like prescribe. And there's like all this stuff we can do, like even free stuff that people could research today that would make a massive difference. So yeah, we have to keep showing up and sharing and spreading the word about this, Jamie. Like, let's keep on this mission.
Totally. We can't let people, like, learned helplessness is a thing. And that's the way that I view this whole, oh, it's cool that I'm mentally ill. Like, we could go on.
Maybe we need to do a part 2. So we'll have Jamie back.
I would love to.
So Jamie, how can we connect with you? I can pop some details in the show notes as well, but what's the best way for people to get in touch?
Sure. So 2 ways. It's not ready yet, but my book will be available on shophappinessninja.com. And it's been a long time coming. And my program, or if you would like to speak to me about coaching or mindfulness or strengths, character strengths, any of my services, they're on my website, thehappinessninja.com.au. I will be getting a .com at some point as well, but it's .com.au, or just Google or in any search engine, The Happiness Ninja, it comes up.
Amazing. We don't want to lose the AU, do we? We want to keep a little bit of Aussie in there.
I'll keep it, but I'll add in another one.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much, Jamie. It's been amazing having you, and I think we've covered so much ground, and I'd love to have you back for a part 2. So
I'd love that.
Yes. Thanks everyone for listening, and bye for now.
Bye everyone.